Hello, everyone. This is my name is Jeremy Tang. I'm the chief architect and founder of Shark Indicators, Bloodhound, and I'm really glad that you guys could join us today. I just want to do a quick mic check and make sure you guys can hear me okay. Just type a yes in the chat panel there if you can hear me okay. All right, that looks good. Thanks for your response, fellas. Okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what we do and a little bit about our software. Some of you guys, I recognize some of your names are current customers as well, but there's a bunch of new people in the room as well, and we're going to go a little about what we're all about. But before I sort of get into that, I want to sort of go back a bit and talk about what got us here and what got us building this software in the first place. So a couple years ago, my partner and I, Zach, looked at the market and noticed a couple things about traders in general in terms of getting to the point where you're an amateur and becoming a professional, and we looked at things that were holding people back, and we found a lot of common threads. One, when they were testing and building or trying to create some sort of methodology to trade, there was no way to sort of verify what they were trading and what they were actually doing could be successful in the future, and therefore no way to actually verify those results, and that was a big roadblock because it was hard to sort of pull the trigger and actually go from the simulation trading to actually live trading when you didn't really know kind of where you stood. We also found that when people were building trade systems and sort of coming together with some sort of methodology to trade, that they were going back to the drawing board time and time and again. And that of course took a lot of time, and especially a lot of the traders that we knew were either trying to code their way to do that or doing this manually. It was extremely time consuming, and I would even submit not really practical in this day and age. And the last, but probably the most prevalent roadblock that we found that traders had was trading was actually very emotional. It's a lot more emotional than people think when they first get into it. And I certainly remember the first time I tried to put a position on when I was learning how to trade, and I just remember my heart literally pounding out of my chest, and a lot of difficulty putting on the next trade. And I had a bunch of sort of system rules laid out. And I decided, well, without really doing any back testing, without doing any sort of what do you call it, due diligence, I suppose, I just decided to go ahead and try trade live for a day and see how that would go. And I'm sure there's probably a few people in the room smiling about that, because you can probably tell just by the tone of my voice how it went. And after my fourth straight loss in a row, I was $800 down, and really honestly just too scared to push the trigger for the next trade. So I quit somewhere after maybe 2 hours of trading, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So I look back and at sort of all these things that sort of hold back traders, and I realized that there's got to be a better way to do this. So this is kind of what we're going to cover today, and by the end of this webinar, we're going to show you how our software Bloodhound takes the emotion out of trading, and allows you to gain confidence in your trading through basically doing research and constructing and articulating your trade rules and your trade methodology, which is what we actually term that as modeling your trade system, or your trade algorithm, if you want to call it that, and basically how that can build your confidence for executing trades in the future. Because basically when you've got it modeled in the system, and then you go back and you can actually back test it and get some verifiable results, you're going to be a lot more confident putting those trades on, knowing how your trade system behaves in the market, in the real world. And lastly, I'm going to show you basically how Bloodhound can do robotic execution, and how you can trade with extreme precision using Bloodhound. So before I sort of get into that, though, I want to bring in a little bit of an anecdote. This is a really interesting little tidbit I found on actually one of those TED conferences. A fellow had given a speech about computers and humans, and I thought that was quite relevant to what we're talking about today. This whole idea of teaming up the computers with humans and actually using them together, to create really potent relationships. So there was actually this chess game apparently back in 2005 where they allowed participants to enter with the aid of a computer. So they could be a chess player, whether they're professional, grandmaster, didn't matter, and they could also bring a computer with them to assist them. And at first the results are fairly predictable. You had a grandmaster paired with a laptop able to beat a supercomputer program at chess. But I guess what was really surprising was who came second and third, or second and first. You had a grandmaster pair himself with a supercomputer who was able to beat the other grandmaster with a laptop. But the most surprising result was the winners of this contest was actually two college kids with some really low-powered laptops, and they were able to beat everything. The supercomputers, the grandmasters with the supercomputers. And the whole point of the story I want to sort of point out is given the right combination and the right mix of using computer technologies with the human's mind, the creativity and the problem solving and the capability there, with the right kind of matchup, you can be very powerful no matter what kind of equipment you have. If you were to sort of think of the supercomputer as kind of like in comparison, say, the hedge funds and whatnot, you don't really need a supercomputer in your basement to be very effective at robotic trading. So the philosophy that we like to take is that we marry your experience and your methodology as a trader, and Bloodhound will basically do all the hard work, the number crunching, and perform the trades according to your trade rules and your using your methodology, your risk profile, using your indicators, and by extension your trade signals. So Bloodhound is really kind of the execution engine, the way to model your trade system, and we think that's the best way to sort of marry the two, computer technology and algorithmic trading with human ingenuity and decision making and creativity. Okay, so that's all fine and dandy, but when you're going about this and you're sort of building your trade methodology, and actually maybe what I'll do is I'm going to sort of interrupt this a little bit, and I'm going to launch a little bit of a poll here. All right, so I've got a little poll up there, and basically it's asking you, what is your, I guess, current relationship, if you will, with trade systems or trade methodology in general. So when I talk about trade systems or trade methodology, I'm just talking about a set of rules that you've put aside that you use to enter the market. It could be things like, well, I look for this indicator to be, I want this indicator to do this before I enter the market, and I want these indicators in this time frame to, to look like that. That's essentially what a trade system is. It's just some sort of set of rules or trade, basically some sort of trade system that you may use to enter the market. And actually, we kind of use these polls to get sort of gauge as well feedback in terms of what users are looking for in a piece of software like that we have. So we actually often use customer feedback to build in new features in the product. But let's all right, so we've got about 2/3 of the people have answered. So I think what I'll do is I'll just let me just check. I think I close this one and then I can share it. All right, so the vast majority of you, as you can see, would prefer to create your own trade system from scratch, and or use someone else's trade system and then customize it. And that's honestly, that's not a very surprising result. I think I've made the point time and time again that trade systems are really kind of personal matters. What works for someone else may not necessarily work for you, and that has a lot to do with the fact that there's risk involved, and people have different tolerances for risk and different trade styles. And so what someone else may be able to sit through like 5 losing trades in a row and be down $10,000 on one contract. You may not be able to do that, or vice versa. And perhaps that system works great for that individual because they're able to experience those drawdowns without even sweating. But someone else may not have that capability, and so therefore they would never actually see the results intended for that trade system. So the big question I have is, how do you know what kind of trade system that you are currently employing or thinking of employing actually works? And to do this, I'm going to sort of go through an example here of just a hypothetical system. Okay, so just a disclaimer, this isn't any particular trading system. This is really just a set of rules I've put together to illustrate some aspects of Bloodhound. So it's one of those things, like, again, take it with a grain of salt, but this is kind of what a typical trader would go through when they're designing a trade system. Okay, so let's look at rule number 1. All right, I'm sure you probably heard this from somewhere, but people say trade with the trend until the end, or whatever that saying is, right? So what is the trend then? How do you determine whether the trend is going up or down? Well, one very popular way to do that is to look at the price swings. And if you look on the chart here, I've got on the slide, I've got these price swings sort of mapped out with these lines, and that's a software basically outlining the up and down swings. And you can see we've got these HHs and HLs. This HH means higher highs. These HLs means higher lows. And so what the market is doing here is it's creating shelves as it bounces up and down, kind of oscillating up and down, and creating higher, like, local lows and higher highs. And so when you get this pattern of higher highs and higher lows, generally that's said to be a bullish trend. So we can measure that, and we're going to call this a bullish trend. And the opposite, when we get these lower lows and lower highs, we're going to call that a bearish trend. Oh, sorry. I got to get the poll off the screen there. Thanks, guys. Okay. All right. So what I was saying here, again, is the higher highs, these HHs and these HLs, are higher highs and higher lows, and these lower highs and lower lows corresponding on the right side here correspond to a bearish trend. Okay. All right. So hopefully everybody can see that, and I apologize for that. Okay, that's rule number 1. So just remember that. Okay, we're gonna measure the trend by looking at higher highs and higher lows, lower highs and lower lows. All right. The second piece of this puzzle, we're going to be using basically a very simple trigger with an SMA 30 cross, which is just basically this. If you look at this white line here, we've got the simple moving average with a period of 30. And then we're just going to say this is a bullish cross, or this is a bullish long signal when the price crosses above this line, and vice versa when the price crosses below the line. Okay, so you can see that, like, in fact, I even have these like nicely outlined in green and red, but you can see the bullish cross comes in here just with this bar as it crosses above, and the bearish cross comes in here, or the short position comes in here as we cross below this 30 SMA. Okay. So that was rule number 2. Rule number 3, we're going to keep this relatively simple in terms of little pieces here and there, but just imagine you have another rule that you like to look at the stochastic sort of as a momentum, because the stochastic, if you ever noticed on a chart, kind of oscillates up and down just as the price goes up and down. So when this oscillator is going down, that could be sort of looked upon as like maybe sort of a negative momentum, not negative, but sorry, a bearish momentum. The market is sort of diving down, and then you can see as it starts to keel over, so it'll actually start to turn, and then the momentum will reverse and go up again. So rule number 3 is the stochastic slope. When we're sloping down, that's good for the short side. When we're sloping up, it's good for the long side. And so what we want to do is pair all 3 of them together. Okay, so we're going to have the price swing trend in our direction, the stochastic slope in our direction, and as well the trigger, the cross of the SMA 30, as well in our direction before we say that's an actual trade. Okay, so imagine you're in the long, you want to look for long trades. What you're looking for is higher highs and higher lows in the price swing trend. You're also looking for a positive stochastic slope, and you're looking for a cross on the SMA 30 in the upward direction above the SMA 30. Okay, so this is my little challenge for today, and I've got a little chart up here on the screen, and I want you to tell me how many bullish signals and how many bearish signals, how many long signals and how many short signals would we get from this chart based off of those 3 rules. So go ahead and, if there's any volunteers in there, I'll just sort of yell out the names, and whoever is able to figure it out the fastest. Okay, we got a couple saying that this is four bullish signals. One says 12 up, one says 1 up, 1 down. Okay, so this is actually very tricky because, and this is a great example because some of this stuff looks better in hindsight than it actually does when you've got imagine you got the chart lined up exactly where that bar would have been when the signal was taken. The very tricky part of this is that you don't actually know sometimes that you're at a higher high yet or a higher low until that shelf or until that next bar is actually taking place. So you have to actually consider, what information were you given at the time when that bar was hugged up against the right line. And so this is a very challenging question when you think about it, because that determining that price, that basically that price trend is actually very difficult to do without literally putting pieces of paper up on the monitor and then seeing where the cutoff would be. But here's the answer. Okay, there's actually 3 signals. There's 2 bearish signals and there's 1 bullish signal. So the reason why this one here is a bearish signal is because we just had a lower high established literally just the bar before, and that would basically reverse the price swing trend and put you into a bearish trend. We had just crossed below the SMA 30. As you can see, the stochastic as well, just down here, is got a negative slope. Okay. Some of you guys might have been fooled by some of these here. This one here, actually, the price swing trend would have been positive because we just had a higher high. So that would have been eliminated. Over here, same thing. We had a lower low as our last previous, basically last previous low. And this is DT for double top, so it doesn't really count for either. But the lower low will sort of take precedence. And so we actually got a bearish, not by much, but just a slight bearish price swing trend going on here, which paired with this cross on the SMA 30 and the negative stochastic slope gives you a bearish signal or a signal to go short. And then likewise, over here we got basically a bullish signal. We got a previous higher high, so that's basically a price swing trend in the opposite direction, going on opposite, but I mean going on the bullish side. That last one's a cross because this little guy has dipped just below. So somebody just asking, why is this one a cross? Well, you had this. It's hard to see, I guess, because maybe the resolution of this image isn't so clear. But you can see actually the previous bar actually dipped just below, closed just below the SMA 30, and then this bar closes just above it. Okay, so that's considered a cross. And if you look at the stochastic, it's actually going it's going up as well. All right, this last SMA cross, someone's asking, why is this not one as well? Well, maybe maybe Mike, you could be correct. We'll have to check the signals and compare it exactly, but and we'll have to see what the price swing trend actually said on that situation. But let's take a look at this is basically what Bloodhound would have printed out given that criteria. And actually, we're gonna have a chance to sort of build this Mike, so you'll be able to see this in detail. But you can see basically we got the 2 bearish signals and we got the bullish one basically revealed by Bloodhound. So I'm going to go ahead and build this little system that we just described, so that we don't have to sort of go through the agony of basically manually squinting and looking for the signals sort of on a manual basis. So I've got the chart here up on my right hand side, and it should be a very similar chart to what we just saw. Okay, and what I'm going to do is add Bloodhound, and we actually have a SI swings indicator that comes packaged with with Bloodhound, and basically it will map the up and down swings like so, and just below I've got the Bloodhound output. So to open up Bloodhound, I just click this top chart button here, and that brings up the Bloodhound interface. And literally all we gotta do to first of all determine the price swing trend is just add the Dorsian swing trend to the Bloodhound interface, and there you go. So you look at the chart, and all the areas that are marked as red are basically the bearish trend. All the areas that are marked as green are the bullish trend. There may be a couple sections that are blank, and that's just because the trend direction hasn't been established yet. You know, arguably in some cases, you know, you might see, well, why didn't this little section fill in yet? You know, generally speaking, it doesn't give you an answer until it's absolutely sure. You know, this double top here and this double bottom, and this, you know, this is sort of a bearish trend happening here. Until we establish a new higher high, we don't actually know that that's going to be a bullish trend yet, at least by definition. So that's actually an expansion over there. We've got this sort of this lower low appears to be you know, just after the this sort of areas here, I guess what you call an area of contention. So it doesn't know, hasn't determined which direction the market's going at. Okay, so you can see the first piece there. And Steven's asking, how do I get those HH labels and HL labels? So basically that's an indicator that comes with Bloodhound. It's called SI swings, and you just go in there and add SI swings, and away you go. Okay, the second piece was the 30 cross. So I'm just going to add basically a crossover as my second piece. And actually we want to compare, what we want to do is compare the closing price against the SMA 30. So if you look on the left hand side, I've got just about every indicator installed on the system available to me. So third-party indicators work just fine. And I'm going to add the 30. And now, if I just sort of click off that first criteria that we had earlier, the swing trend, we're going to see all the points. Bloodhound just immediately has marked the chart with all the crossovers. And you can see there's quite a few of them. It gets a little busy here. So you can see it crossed below here, crossed above, and then a couple bars later, crossed below, then crosses above. You know, so it's this part here. You can see like literally the price is hugging the SMA 30 line. You know, so that's why, you know, just having a trigger as a cross is generally not the best way to trade. If you guys have been around the block a little bit, you'll notice you'll probably get killed in this area here. So that's why we add filters like this. So once we add the swing trend filter, you can see that a lot of the stuff has been eliminated, and we have some at least little cleaner looking signals there. Okay, the last one is the stochastic. All right, so that one is a slope that we were studying. We're studying the slope of the stochastic. And I'm actually going quite slow, but I mean, you can imagine, you know what it'd be like to either code something like this in terms of from scratch if you're developing this logic or this strategy in code. You know, it could take a fair bit of time to put this together. And let me just look at the stochastic slope by itself. So I've basically disabled the other two. And you can see that whenever the stochastic is sloping down and whenever it's sloping up, we get the green when it's sloping up, and when it's sloping down, it's red. You know, coincidentally, that's actually quite hard to tell when you're just sort of trading live and you're seeing, you know, you're looking at a lot of things in your chart and you're watching the stochastic at the same time. Sometimes the slopes can be pretty subtle. And there's actually ways to fine-tune Bloodhound so that, you know, that if the slope was sort of very close to zero, that's a zero slope right there. Actually, that's why that line is black. You could actually tell Bloodhound not to give you a value in either direction. So I put them all on. Now we got all three filters on. Now we're seeing on the chart conditions that match all three criteria. The price swing trend, the stochastic slope, as well as the crossover of the SMA 30. And so if we scroll back and forth, you can see very quickly, within, I guess, the 5 minutes it took me to build this little guy, we're able to build this system. Okay. All right, so that's all fine and dandy, but that's a pretty simple system. There's really 3 little pieces of criteria to that, and that's not necessarily the end of the show. So I'm going to bring in, we did promise to show you, some criteria on multiple time frames, and Bloodhound is adept at doing that sort of thing. So those of you in the room that like to trade with multiple charts, this is quite handy. Just a little caveat, guys. If you have experience using multiple charts on a historical basis, there are some just estimations, because what I'm getting at is, when we're looking at historical data, basically these bars may or may not be closed when the bars in the higher time frame are closed. So sometimes you get, it looks like maybe the bars are off by 1 or 2 or something like that, and that's just sort of an artifact of the data coming in. But you always get the correct values going forward when you're trading in real time. So anyway, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna add one more piece of criteria, and I'm gonna say, well, let's say kind of as an overall thing, we like to look at the EMA 50 on the 15-minute chart, and we'd like this thing to be sloping upwards. Let's try something else. We want to be above, let's say we want the price to be above this EMA 50 when we go long, and we want this price to be below the EMA 50 when we go short. Okay, so that just may or may not be a rule that you like to do. And to do this, I'm going to use the logic board. I'm going to use kind of a different screen, and I'm going to put in the basically an indicator comparison. Actually, what we got to do is we got to put this on the 15-minute time frame. So I'm jumping ahead of myself, but we just hit this chart button, and now I'm going to pop in the 15-minute, and under there I'm going to add the comparison, and we're going to compare again the closing price against the EMA 30. All right. Oh, 50. All right, so there we go. I'm going to label that just to be sure. Price versus EMA 50. Okay. And let's plug that sucker in to see what that looks like. Okay, so I've got this result node you can see here. On the side, just because we added that time frame, we got to refresh it. And I am going to save it this time. Thursday 2, we'll call it. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the global crosshair, which will allow us to sort of visit both charts simultaneously. And if you look at the left-hand side, you can see basically when we're below here, we got this red zone on the right side, right? When we go to these zones up here, we're basically green. Like I did mention before, there are some times where we dip below here, and we're gonna get a couple like red zones on the other side, just because intra-bar, we do have a couple instances where we may have dipped below the moving average there. So yeah, so now you can see basically I've imported the data, if you will, from the 15-minute chart into this chart, and that's going to allow us to create more complex systems and incorporate like time frame rules. So now let's just try this. We're gonna take our original system. I'm going to rebuild it here real quickly. Okay, so this one's the stochastic slope, and normally I'd probably name these all something that makes sense rather than okay, so indicator comparison, I think that one was an unnamed one, right? Okay, so that one I'm just gonna leave out. Okay, so imagine I'm gonna create another rule here, and I'm going to say, instead of just the swing trend, and the stochastic slope having to both agree with each other, I'm just going to make it so that if one or the other agrees with each other, then I'm going to allow the trade. So we actually have these logic nodes here, and we can create some pretty fancy logic. I'm going to put these together with an OR node, and that's going to give us permission to go in on either side, depending on whether or not the slope or the swing trend agrees with me. And if I plug that directly in, you'll see on the right hand chart, I've got a lot of zones now. You see basically anytime we got this sort of long bar on the red bar here, and anytime we got this green bar, that's just telling you that your system is telling you that you're okay to go long, or your system is okay to go short. And in these instances here, where we got two bars like this, or like two directions, this is basically saying, you can go either way. So that's how basically you construct these filters. And this OR node allows you to do that. So this OR node allows you to do things like go either way. So I'm gonna say that's that criteria, and for sure I want the the 15-minute chart to look good for me. I want that trigger, and then I want that third criteria where you can go use either the swing trend or the stochastic slope, and then I'm going to plug the final thing into the result. And now we have signals that I would say are very difficult to probably eke out. And I just sort of made this up on the fly, guys. So this may not necessarily be a good system or not. I'm just sort of putting pieces together. And this is kind of typical of how you build a system. You try to couple the things out, look at the chart, see how it looks. And I'll show you in a second here as well as how you can backtest and take a look at some better results than just sort of eyeing the charts. Okay, so these are all signals that in English, if I were to describe it, say, agree with the EMA 50 on the 15-minute chart. They agree with either the stochastic or the swing trend. All right, so that sort of relaxes it. And now we've got a lot of signals, but at this point, you could go through and you could fine tune and tweak your system a little bit more and change the logic up a lot. And that's kind of these are things that if you were to sort of do this the old way, heaven forbid even the manual way, would take a tremendous amount of time. Every time you had an idea and you want to test it out, you would have to go back to the drawing board, go back through your chart and figure out which pieces actually marked would have been a trade, and then figure out from there how to calculate your profit and target losses and how much profit you would have made that trade or whatever. And there's a lot of opportunity for human error to be put in place. And this is stuff that computers are really good at. So really a computer should be handling this kind of stuff. Whereas what you're good at as a human is basically coming up with these ideas and coming up with these different characteristics, say, on indicators. Okay, so I'm going to take this probably not so good system and show you what it looks like in doing a very quick back test just on this chart. And so what I've done here is I've just opened up the strategies window in NinjaTrader. So those of you that aren't familiar with NinjaTrader, there's basically two aspects to it. You can use indicators and you can use strategies. Strategies are the things that actually will place trades and manage them. Okay, so our strategy component for Bloodhound is called Raven. And I'm going to load up Thursday 2, which is what I just did. And I've got an entry logic called new logic. Like I said, it's probably not going to be that good, but we're just going to do it for the sake of showing you. And here's where you put in some stop targets, or profit targets, sorry, and some stop losses. And let's go ahead and enable that. All right. Okay, so if I want to bring up the historical performance, which probably doesn't look so hot, again, just because it's this is more or less just a couple pieces I threw together. I can right click the chart and bring up the historical performance, and I can get all sorts of metrics just on what you see here, and that sort of saves you a lot of time. This is every single trade it would have taken. All right, here's the equity curve. Doesn't look super happy. Here's all the executions. So you can see very quickly, this is kind of how you lend itself to back testing. And if you want some, this is only just, I don't know, like maybe 4 days of data, so it's not very significant. But if you want to go more in depth, you do the exact same thing on the strategy analyzer, which is literally the same window, except you have on this side here, you've got this backtest ability. Okay, so that's a little bit about like NinjaTrader, and we take advantage of a lot of infrastructure that NinjaTrader provides. So it was the ideal platform to develop for. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to show you something really neat. This is I'm going to show you basically us take some simulated trades, and this is what it would look like. But I'm going to use a really simple system because I just want a couple trades to just fire off just for just for illustration purposes. So I'm going to create a super simple system called a 210 cross, which is basically a crossover between this this hard to see, unfortunately, I'm sorry, this hard to see violet line crossing up above or below this 30 moving average. Okay, so let's start again. I'm going to use Raven. And I'm just going to create this right from scratch real quickly. And we use the 2 and the 10, I believe. Okay. And let's save that. Okay, we already had one created, but just go ahead and replace that one. And I'm going to use, instead of just simple profit and target stops, I'm going to use ATMs. Now, if you're not familiar with NinjaTrader, the ATM is this really great and powerful tool that allows you to manage trades in a more sophisticated fashion. So instead of just putting simple profit targets and stop losses on the chart, you're able to put in basically an execution strategy, right? And I'll show you in just 1 second what I mean. So I'm going to enable that. And I'm going to induce a trade here. So I've got my little simulate trend here. I'm going to push the price back up so we get this bullish cross up here. And we can see we got this one strategy running down here. I've got a couple other sample ones I just sort of created in the past. And while that's sort of going, I'm going to go through the questions here and see if I can get a couple of these answered. Okay. Can you use the label points from the swing indicator as points of reference? So Mike, yes, absolutely you can. In Bloodhound,
order filled.
Okay, so that one just fired off. As you heard, the entry was automatic, and now it has placed us in a trade. This particular ATM that I've designed here is going to put on 3 contracts, sort of in a tight stop. Approximately, I think I put 15 ticks. I can't remember. 20 ticks above and below the entry price, and I've got a wide stop with a wide profit target, sort of like my runner, if you will. So and what's really neat is now you can sort of jump in. The trade entry was completely automatic, and I can now sit here if I feel like it and go in and sort of manage and massage the trade manually, right? So maybe I I'm not so sure it's going to break this little high up here. I'll just put just below that, so my first target will fire off, before that, and I'll leave my runner nice and wide, and maybe we'll put our first stop like just below this little lower low here, or sorry, this higher low. Okay, so what I'm illustrating again is the ability for Bloodhound to take the entries, and then for you to jump in and just manually, with using discretion, manage the trade. So the point I'm trying to make here is Bloodhound doesn't pigeonhole you into any kind of style of trading in particular. And so if you like to manage your trades manually, and rather than having the computer do it, you can absolutely do that. Or I could have just,
Target filled.
I could have just been totally hands-free on that one and let it go and let the automated trade strategy, the ATM, take care of the entire trade from start to finish. So so that's a very common way. In fact, we find a lot of customers like to do is use the ATM and then use manual intervention. Okay, so Mike, yeah, absolutely. You can use we have actually another indicator in package with Bloodhound called SI high low swings, which will historically record and plot all the higher highs and higher lows, swing points, if you will, for the last X number of swings, and then you can plug that into Bloodhound as well. David's asking, will this webinar be recorded? Yes, it is. I'll be sending out those of you that did register for the recording, or for the webinar, the recording as well. Kenny's asking, this is confusing since it shows a range of green and red. How does one interpret this? Well, that was a 256. Okay, so that was a little while ago, Kenny. Essentially, what I'm getting at is whenever Bloodhound outputs a red zone or a green zone, right? The red zone is basically it's telling you that the system you plugged into Bloodhound is giving you a strong indication to go short. If you get a green zone, that's a strong indication to go long. So, and how you use those signals is really up to you. So, I mean, you could use them as filters. If that's maybe what you want to do, is just design a couple filters so you paint your charts like red and green, and then you do the entries yourself. Or if you want like discrete signals like this one, like this is, like I would characterize as a fairly ugly signal here, because we got a ton of them and they're not filtered. This is just simply a cross. Then you could use these as triggers for entry as well. Theo, how do you backtest in Bloodhound? So I think I just showed you how to do that. You use Raven after you design your system. Charles, can you create a multi-time frame heat map or histogram? I'm not quite sure what if you're saying a heat map. I think you're probably looking at maybe a volume or what do you call those, price? The name escapes me, but I think I have an idea what you're talking about, Charles. So the answer is Bloodhound doesn't actually do those. Doesn't do heat maps or histograms like I think
Target filled.
I think I have an idea what you're talking about. There are other indicators that do that, and absolutely, if you have those indicators, you can actually plug those into Bloodhound and therefore into your system. Javier is saying, what if you had a 10 tick loss? Well, that's that's probably the profit target that you were talking about, but I already sort of passed that. I'm sorry about that. Theo asking, is there no connection with multi-charts? So our software runs, again, on the NinjaTrader platform, and we may be looking at other platforms in the future, but that's just simply at this point in time, we're very focused with NinjaTrader just because they have all the infrastructure that we need. It has a lot of things that were to our advantage. So one, it's got the technological infrastructure in place. Number two, it's got a fairly large install base. But three, it actually is, it's not tied to any particular broker. You can actually connect it to quite a few different brokers. I would suggest if you're not familiar with NinjaTrader, and actually it's free. There is a free version that you can basically muck around with. It does a lot of things except for allowing you to trade live, and I believe the ATMs probably aren't included in the free version. But for the most part, it's really the full product. And so you can do a lot of your system backtesting and a lot of your system trade and analysis and that sort of thing without putting a dime of in the real market. And then when you're ready to go, then you can purchase the NinjaTrader license. John, with Bloodhound, is there a way to limit the criteria to a specific time frame? Say I only want to apply the criteria for 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. CDT. And so absolutely, John, there's two ways to do that. One is sort of the one, you could actually restrict your chart data so that it only shows chart the those time frames that you mentioned. The other way, which is I would say a lot cleaner, is to use Bloodhound to do that. And the way you do that is all you got to do is just add basically what we call a time session solver. And you can add this as like any other piece of criteria. and you just simply tell it what kind of time frame you want to use. There's a lot of sort of pre-default defined ones in NinjaTrader that we take advantage of, but you can create your own. So if you want to create one that does 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. CDT, no problem. Just hit new here, and away you go. And basically you plug that in right there, and your system will not fire off entries outside of that time session. So and likewise, if you were to put it into your logic node, you would just put it in with an AND node. Robert's asking, can ATMs break even be used? Yeah, so absolutely, Robert. Obviously, you're familiar with the ATMs in NinjaTrader, so you can use pretty much anything that the ATMs could do. It doesn't make any restrictions on that. So absolutely, if you designed your ATM with the break even in there, yeah, by all means, it'll work just as you design it. So you can absolutely use the break even there. Julie, will you save this template and send it to us also? I can certainly do that. And actually, we have a couple that from previous webinars that are real similar. And if you just want it, just remind me, please. Just shoot me a support email, and I will send you a link to all the ones actually on our website. There's quite a few of them. In fact, you know what? I'll just go there right now, and you can take a look. All right, so folks. So pretty much all the workshops, and this is stuff that Zach puts together as well, or my partner. He does a lot better systems than I do. I consider myself more of the software developer, and Zach's got more of the trading background. So basically, if you go to Bloodhound and then you go to downloads right here, okay? So Bloodhound, learn Bloodhound, downloads. Click on that. And here are basically all the templates that we've produced from past webinars or demonstrations, or actually a lot of these might have tips and tricks videos associated with them, and you can just simply download them. You put them into your NinjaTrader. See, once you got this template, you just throw it in here on your documents folder, NinjaTrader, under templates, Bloodhound. Throw them in there, and they're just XML files, and then you can load them up in Bloodhound, or you can put them anywhere. Really, doesn't matter. Okay. Can you explain the fuzzy logic component, Charles? Okay, so Charles, Bloodhound, without sort of getting too far into depth when I lose a lot of people here, but basically you'll notice that these values go from 0 to 1, and they're not necessarily digital and all. Like some of these will give you digital values, but there are a lot of instances, a lot of solvers that we can do things that give you sort of gradated values, if you will. So I've just added a indicator change in slope, and what this particular solver is doing is actually measuring the acceleration of a particular indicator. So let's use one that's on the chart. So this one's, I think, an SMA 30, if I remember, or 10. It was a 10, yeah. Okay, so and these are very hard to sort of see, when you're just sort of putting them by yourself rather than sort of combining them with some sort of criteria. But what's going on here is, as this SMA 10 is accelerating downwards, you're going to get this very long, very strong bar in the south, in like red bar. But as you start weakening a little bit, and again, this is something that human eye literally, it's very difficult to pick up. But you see this little section from here to here, right? The indicator just start to decelerate a little bit and start to increase its rate of change, its acceleration started going up, okay, because it's sort of bent up a little bit. That's where Bloodhound has basically saw that, and is now, you can see it's just shortened the bar a little bit on the bottom side and lengthened the bar on the long side. So what I'm getting at is you can get sort of analog type signals if you want. You can sort of craft, and this is sort of an advanced topic, but you can actually move away from these digital signals from like ones and zeros to sort of these percentage like these intermediary signals, and you can actually craft systems that take advantage of this. And like I said, I don't want to get too far into this as we start losing people, but you'll notice kind of like say let's use a ratio node here. So if I plug these guys into it, all right, and I click on this ratio node, I can actually sort of change the influence of one node against the other. And this is actually a factorial here. So I can say, well, I want this crossover to take greater effect over the end result than this change in slope node, or vice versa. So there are ways to really kind of, I guess, soften the edges, if you will. And it just, this is some stuff that you literally can't, I would say it is impossible to design a system like manually if you're coding it to try to do some of this stuff. You literally have to do some of this stuff like interactively, like we've got here. It's very much like a video game. You can just go in and you can change some of these values and look at the results and see if you got some good trade signals out of it, and it's interactive. So okay. All right, where was I? Do you have a free trial? We absolutely do, Rick. So you just go right here to our main site. Free download is where it's at, and you just enter your email and you basically get a link to the download. And to install it, a NinjaTrader, it's a little tricky right now, but basically you save this. You get a .zip file, you save it to your desktop, and then in NinjaTrader, you go to your utilities menu, import NinjaScript. Now we have instructions for this, but you go to import NinjaScript, and then you just click on the file that you downloaded. All right, so I don't think I have it saved anywhere here, but presumably you did. You would click on it, and then once you hit OK, it will import the basically our indicator into it, or our software, and then you're good to go. So basically, to get started, by the way, after you just download it, the first thing you should go to is just go to our Getting Started guide here, right? Go to Learn Bloodhound, Getting Started, and we have this quick start video, and these videos are like 15 minutes long. They show you the basics of what to do, and the installation process is also described here, as well as we got this installation guide here if you need to sort of see the installation step by step, which is right there. And then finally, like when you're kind of done that, you got these video tutorials, and these are great sort of ways to go about it. And guys, just some of you that are just brand new and looking at this, you might think, man, this is overwhelming. There's a lot of stuff here. There's definitely a lot of power in Bloodhound, and there's some complexity. We didn't dumb it down, because we find actually what happens is people will take these video tutorials, once they're done them, and we also offer a one-on-one consultation where we help you out build your system, and we show you how to do things. And literally, from our experience, it just takes basically one meeting along with these videos, and then something will click, and then you can get it and start building systems on your own. So and some people it takes a little longer. Some people they never need our help at all. So it really depends on how you like to absorb this kind of stuff. We try to poll our users and sort of gauge how difficult you find Bloodhound to use, and the vast majority, literally to our surprise, is no, it's very easy. So maybe we're kind of fretting about it's about it for nothing, but nonetheless, we do when you're a customer with us, we hold your hand through building your system. We also have a Friday workshop that runs every Friday morning at 10:30 Mountain Standard Time, which is 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there, it's basically an open workshop, and you ask your questions. Unlike this is this is kind of more of a sales presentation, I would say. But the Friday workshops are more of an open forum, where you basically ask your questions, and then Zach, the instructor, will demonstrate. Sometimes use things that he's seen through support tickets. Or if there's no questions at the time, sometimes he has some prepared material that he'll go over. Okay, David, can you, or Charles is asking again, composite indicator. So yeah, I guess you could absolutely talk about this like it's like a composite indicator. We like to tell people it's kind of like the last indicator you need to buy, because it allows you to create a lot of things, a lot of indicators that you may actually see out there in third parties selling for a lot more. And you can use Bloodhound to build a lot of things that are just out there. So, and it's flexible because it's kind of an open book. You can build whatever you like to build. David's asking, can you create indicators that modify bar types in Bloodhound? So you can use all sorts of different bar types, and like I just sort of said, literally you can model indicators, indicator behavior, different types of indicators, with Bloodhound. But you can certainly use Bloodhound on all sorts of different bar types. Like this 4-better rankle, for example, is one I just downloaded off Big Mike's Trading, and I installed it. And if you've got a custom bar type that maybe you developed or download on the internet, Bloodhound will definitely work with that as well. Richard is saying syncing heat map. Yeah, so that, thanks for that, Richard. So basically, I think Thea was talking about a heat map. Kenny, would you be able to post this system on the web or email it out to the current attendees as a live sample? So I think what I'll do, Kenny, is I'll leave you guys with this, because this particular example, is just kind of one of many. But I think what I'll do is I'll leave you guys with this. You guys can sort of see. You go to Bloodhound, go to the Bloodhound menu, go to Learn Bloodhound, and go to the Download section. And there's a ton of examples here. And this is kind of one way about it. You can go and download some of the examples and take a look at them. But I think probably a better way to go about this is actually going through the video tutorials, because if you go to the video tutorials, you'll see that there's a couple of these templates here, right here. So we'll actually go through and build it, and then you can download the corresponding template file, both for the chart template as well as the Bloodhound template. So you can not only follow along, but you can see what the end product is. And I think that's probably a better way to go about it is use those. Tony, Jeremy, hi, I'm already a new customer. I sent in a question about 5-minute chart, not showing all the 40. Okay, so actually, Tony, I know that Zach is dealing with this with you at this point, so I'm not actually abreast on this issue, but I'm just sort of okay. So Tony, just an aside, but basically, just so you know that on in general, the historical, when you have multiple time frames, the historical plotting will not be synced 100%, and that's just simply because we don't have all the information available in a historical basis. Like NinjaTrader will give us basically bar close data. Okay, so we don't actually have full data in terms of what was this X time frame, what was its actual value when the bar was still when the bar has closed, say on your main time frame, but it's still open on your higher time frame or lower time frame. We don't know actually what the indicator values would have actually been at that time in a historical time frame, just because that data is just not there. So that's why you're not seeing perfect synchronization. Especially on tick charts, that simply will not happen. In NinjaTrader 8, this is just a bit aside, that might actually be solved because there is going to be tick level backtesting available, and so we'll be able to be privy to that kind of information. But once those tick charts are built, we don't have anything more than just the bar closes. So that's why you're seeing that discrepancy. The one thing that you should realize, however, though, is when you're trading live, you're always going to get the proper printed value. You'll never get sort of a value that doesn't make sense. Okay, so I'll let Zach sort of finish that up with you. Okay, and thanks for the compliment, Tony. Thanks. Okay, David. As we develop a strategy, are you available to assist with questions if you get stuck and continue to support that process throughout the different strategies? So absolutely, that's what I sort of went over earlier, David. We extend a great helping hand to all our customers in terms of you're able to book one-on-one consultations with us, and the goal that we have is we try to teach you how to fish, not just fish for you. The idea that if I use that cliche that you feed for a lifetime rather than just feed for one day. And Bernie, how do you upgrade to the latest version of Bloodhound? So Bernie, if there's an update, and I'll go over this, but basically, if you click on our interface, and it'll actually check for you on a daily basis, but if you've told it not to, it won't. So you just go to the help menu, go for check for updates, and it will tell you if there's an update available, and if so, it will go through the update process. So the way our licensing works is that our product here, and actually maybe I'll just continue with the presentation because we sort of go through this, but okay. So out of the box here, just kind of in summary as well, like what Bloodhound gives you is this ability to model your trade algorithms. It works with all indicators and all chart types. It allows you to completely automate your entries and your exits. I only showed your entries, but there's also a little, let me just sort of get that little drawing arrow out there. There's also a way to do the same thing with your exits. You can also, as you saw, use the ATM to manage your trades. So you can have pretty sophisticated stop management capability there. And by extension, because you've modeled it in Bloodhound, you're able to backtest as well. So I just want to go over, okay, so, it just in that, I'd say that probably 15-minute period, I blew out maybe three, arguably probably worthless systems, but three systems nonetheless. And if I were to go in and actually sit at the computer and code those three systems, I think it would probably take me about a week at least. Especially when you're dealing with higher time frames, that's some pretty complicated code to get right. And in general, let's just say, for example, it took, for an average software developer, a week every time you did a tweak and you did a change and you try a new thing. We've met some friends that actually been, that they're on the quest to find, their trading system that they want to trade, and you don't get it on your first kick of the can. You never do. We've heard some people try probably 100 systems, and that's no exaggeration, 100 systems before they finally get something that they find is good enough to trade. And those of you that are already there, congratulations that, you got to that point, certainly not overnight. But now if you haven't got a software like Bloodhound, now it's probably time to go in and actually test and see the validity of your system over the long term. And it's just imagine though, however, you were starting from scratch and it took you about 50 kicks of the cat before you finally got a tradable system. You're looking at about 2,000 man hours of coding time. That's how much, it would cost if you were to hire a software developer to do the same thing that you would have performed in Bloodhound. The total cost of that would be $40,000 at $20 an hour. And while that may not be a big deal for, say, a hedge fund, if they got software staff and they can just simply, task someone to do that, that is a big deal certainly for the retail trader. And, not to knock the hedge funds. I mean, we do have a couple hedge funds that use our software, and because they know the value there, and obviously they can save cost and not have to hire someone for $40,000 or $40,000 a year or whatever it takes them to do it. They will save that cost. But really, we're building a software product for retail traders, and so our software product is priced for the retail trader, and we're priced quite aggressively. Like we've looked around, and we've seen pre-built systems, with significantly less, say, engineering behind it, go for about $1,000 to up to $3,000. And you can get Bloodhound for as low as $295 as an entry price. We also have a professional version with some more features and the ability to do multiple timeframes. The standard version does not. And then finally, we have an ultimate version, which basically has all the bells and whistles, with a lot of these, which includes these what we call function nodes that allow you to do very, very powerful and sort of very complex logics. Or flexible, I say, not complex, but flexible logic that once they may not mean anything to you right now, but when you sort of start building the system and whatnot, there are certain things that are simply not possible to do in the professional version because the tools just aren't in there. The ultimate version allows you to sort of unlock the gates and perform anything. Okay, so the way we work is we have a very traditional kind of software model. In terms of a one-time purchase will entitle you to 1 year of free updates. So we're constantly evolving the product and putting new features in and that sort of thing. You can actually, when you purchase once, you get a year of updates to the software. After the year, your software will still continue to work as is. So it's just like if you bought, say, Office 2012, and your software, your Office 2012 continues to work as is, indefinitely. Same idea here, except the difference is, if we happen to release Office 2013 or like version 2 of Bloodhound, and you're within your maintenance period, you will actually receive it, no additional cost. And at the end of the year, you can optionally decide to get basically a maintenance contract with us, which is basically 25%. I don't mean contract, but maintenance fee. Sorry, 25% of the sticker price, which will entitle you for another year of updates, and then you can continue to do so as long as you'd like. It's completely optional, and the software will work without it, but it'll sort of give you, for what we think is a very reasonable price, the ability to enjoy all the latest features from us. The last thing I want to note is, we chose this model instead of using version 1, version 2, and charging people for updates. Say version 2 comes out, you have to pay an update fee if you want that. I know a lot of software companies do that, but we like to do it this way because we don't want to sort of we don't want to tailor our development towards the version numbers. When we had this model originally, we thought, well, we're going to hold back on this feature because I think we should put that into version 2, sort of justify it. We thought, that's not really a good way to go about things. We'd rather just sort of put the features in, as customers need them, and try to put our best foot forward at all times. And so, and that's why we've gone with the sort of the timed product updates instead. Okay. All right, so let me just go through and see what we got here. So that's how you upgrade Bernie. And if you're talking about upgrade from standard to professional to ultimate, all you gotta do is shoot us a support email, and we'll send you a link to upgrade your version if you've got a lower version, you want a better one. Which function nodes are not included in the professional version of Bloodhound? So let me show you, Ian. All right, so in this logic screen here, these function nodes and this menu here are all in the ultimate version. All right, and they do things like, okay, so the professional version, I would say it basically has the ability to look at only, say, the current bar, like literally in terms of what's happening right now. Whereas the ultimate version allows you to do things like analyze what's happening in the past, count how many times they say a certain signal's happened. You can actually create a state. If you see certain conditions happening in the market, you can put your algorithm into a certain state and then change the logic going forward. You can do all sorts of basic programmatical type things that are just simply not possible in the professional version. So in the ultimate version, you also have these nodes here, the if-then, relational, and truth table nodes. The if-then is like a gateway. It's like it's a way to it's an advanced sort of logic construct that the programmers use. So these are things that are sort of more advanced features, but certainly I think when you start building your systems, you'll start to realize that, hey, it would be nice to have something like this. Okay. How much does the system cost? So I just answered that. Adam, yeah, absolutely, Adam. I will send you your license ID information. Moi. I'm sorry if I butchered your name there. Power cycle trading. I'm afraid I don't know what power cycle trading is. I assume that maybe another vendor. So we, again, like I mentioned before, pretty much all indicators will work with Bloodhound, including stuff that you downloaded off the internet. There are some exceptions, and it depends. Like basically, see, these are third-party indicators. For example, I've downloaded these. I don't even remember where from, to be honest. But some indicators do not actually share data on purpose, and certainly at least right now, Bloodhound can't read information in from indicators that do not share it. Okay, Kenny, fantastic guidance on how to get ramped up on the video, templates and examples. Thank you, Kenny. Can you create new bar types? So no, I see, David, okay, that's what you're asking. So no, you can't create new bar types, but you certainly can use any sort of third-party bar types and whatnot. Bernie's saying, thanks. Can you upgrade to a higher version? So Bjorn, Yeah, absolutely. When you purchased it, just shoot us a support email, and we'll send you a special link to do the upgrade. Thanks, Michael, for the compliment. Will you provide migration support if you need for future upgrades of NinjaTrader? Yeah, certainly when NinjaTrader upgrades, we'll be spending the time to make sure that our previous versions and versions going forward. Well, actually, sorry, I'll take that back. We'll make sure that we have support for future versions. I can't guarantee necessarily that previous versions of Bloodhound will work with the future versions of NinjaTrader. Okay. I have an Ultimate, and I got a notice yesterday to update, and then I lost the link, Bernie says. Okay, so yeah, Bernie, that's just it's just right here. Go to the help menu, check for updates, and I'll do it. Kenny, what kinds of pre-built examples do you already have when you purchase the software? So at least in the moment. Okay, so Kenny, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a secret. We are actually working very hard right now on providing more than just simply example templates. But I'll just kind of hint that we're kind of working on a bit of a marketplace that will allow you to download and share templates. So that's kind of all I'll say for that for now. But in the meantime, that download section is probably the best part where to go. Okay. I've been using this software for 1 week, and I built a system that I've given up on trying to code. You guys have done a great job, and I will definitely purchase. Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. Kenny, what are the limitations of the free downloaded version? Not sure I've seen. Okay, good, excellent question, Kenny. So the limitations are actually kind of outlined here, and we've just recently changed this policy a little bit. So we do offer obviously a free, unlimited free trial, as we mentioned everywhere, and of course, we do have to pay our bills, so we have to hold some stuff back on you guys, otherwise no one would buy our stuff. A couple things are disabled, like back testing, market replay support. Generally speaking, the tool is designed for you to build your system and test it out and design it. So obviously, if people are able to do that, then we wouldn't be making very much money. But we are, I believe this build actually, the latest download build will actually give you the unrestricted sort of, I guess you could say, unlimited access to all the features except for live trading for a period of time. And then it'll, at some point at that period of time, I believe it is 14 days. I should double check on that. But after that, then it will lock down and sort of restrict itself, and then behave like this like this graph here sort of predicts or tells you, like, in terms of certain things that aren't supported. Okay, so it's basically, what I'm saying is the trial is designed to allow you to learn it and get familiar with the interface, and then kind of when you're ready to really do some serious system building, then a license will be required. Okay, Ari, will you be doing webinars on function nodes and logic nodes? So yeah, absolutely, Ari. In the advanced workshop on the Fridays, we tend to keep this Thursday this Thursday presentation to be very sort of surface level stuff. But on the Friday workshop, which basically are for customers, we definitely go into a lot of that stuff as well. Okay. I think we ran out of questions, and we're a little bit over an hour, so that's some good time. So I just want to wrap up by saying thanks a lot, guys, for and thanks for the vote of confidence there, Robert. If you need any help, I should probably show you that as well. Or how to get us a hold of us in support. All right, so if you need any help, you just go to our support tickets section here. Actually, if you click the support on the menu there, it takes us to our ticketing system. It's run by Zendesk, and you just submit a request. That's really all you have to do. And likewise, if you want to book a one-on-one appointment, submit a request. We'll send you a link to the scheduling system. And then you also, as you buy, you'll receive an email with all the information how to join up on the workshop on Friday. All right. So thanks a lot for listening to me, folks. And yes, Mike, the Friday advanced workshop is for customers. Thank you for your interest. So we'll have yourself a great day. And if you're not, if you guys are customers and sort of are not joining us on Friday, have yourself a great weekend. All right? Thank you very much.